On this week's In the Money Players podcast, super excited to have three guests. We have Nick Tammaro to talk Saturday's Belmont Pick 6, and he gives some best bets for Friday and Saturday in the Breeders' Cup. We also have Kate Hunter talking all Japanese runners for this incoming Breeders' Cup. And last but not least, Drew Coatney and me go over the late pick for Woodbine on Saturday, and we break down two races from this year's Breeders' Cup.
Today's show brought to you in part by In the Money Plus. Really proud of what the Plus service has generated in terms of content this week. Fantastic contributions from the likes of Sean Borman, Nick Tammaro, Frank Scottoni. We've got grid picks for JK and me and so many other people on the team. It's just a lot of great info. People have been very happy with it so far. We encourage you to check it out. Well worth the price. Extra podcast content as well. Go to inthemoneypodcast.com/plus to learn more. That's inthemoneypodcast.com/plus.
And now I'd like to welcome in my first special guest on this In the Money Players podcast, someone who is part of the In the Money family, someone who I have had the wonderful time talking on Redboard Rewind. It is the Sopranos lover, very own Nick Tammaro. Nick, how are you today?
Good morning, Spencer. I'm doing great. Glad to be with you and ready to talk about this pick six and anything else that comes up.
We're going to kind of do this rapid fire, guys. Got limited time on our hands. We'll try and talk a little bit of Breeders' Cup at the very end. Let's get started and get right into it. Race number 5 from Belmont Park this Saturday is a state bred N1X allowance going 6 furlongs on the inner turf. What do we like in this race, Nick?
You know, I thought this was is an interesting race, a good field. You got a lot of horses that have run against each other. Obviously, this division comes into focus every year around April when turf racing resumes at Aqueduct generally, and then goes on through the summer, obviously at Belmont and Saratoga. And then you get into the fall and you see horses that have faced each other sometimes 3 and 4 times. You know, Creasa LaRote, for example, who I ended up picking, has run against Blame It on Mary, Uncle's Gem, and Get the Candy somewhere around 6 times. So they know each other. They've seen each other. I actually picked Creasa LaRote, and this is a horse that if you're willing to be a little patient with, 2 starts back, this horse was well off a pretty hot pace, being set by Blame It on Mary, ended up going wide after getting into a little bit of trouble. Then last time out, steadied shortly after the start, was completely out of the race, ended up having to try and make a big rally from there, and I think is a lot better than her last 2 running lines look, and I think is ultimately a horse that wants to be a little bit more involved early and just hasn't had that opportunity because of the trouble that she's run into. I picked Blame It on Mary second. I would definitely use Blame It on Mary in the pick 6 as well. A lot of times a late autumn turf course can get a little spongy and a little speed favoring, and that would obviously work in her favor. She did all the running last time too, setting that really hot pace and then getting caught right on the wire by Social World. That was during a stretch for trainer Tom Morley where he was winning basically every race in sight. So I would give her another look. And Uncle's Gem seems like a relatively obvious horse to me. We don't have a morning line yet, but I'm envisioning she'll be probably the favorite or pretty close to it, coming in with a series of pretty solid efforts, including that good runner-up finish last time. So I picked it 9-1-3-8. I'm going to try for a little bit of price with Creasa LaRote, but definitely include Blame It on Mary and Uncle's Gem.
I'm kind of right there with you, not with Creasa LaRote, but Blame It on Mary and Uncle's Gem. I kind of feel the same way with you. I have the race 3 back at Saratoga as gold rail on dirt and turf possibly, so I just like the flow upgrade there. A couple 70s in a row, and that 73. I need to see a little bit more improvement. I don't really like the fact they're kind of being stagnant with this one. And then going to the rail, Blame It on Mary. As I said, most of these past couple shows, Dylan Davis for me, most improved jockey of the year, if there was a category for that for me. And out of the last 3 races, you cross a 1 out, 2 back with the 38 in the mud, 68 and the 74 fit really well with this one. I just think it's going to be those 2. Add Creasa LaRote as well as a backup. Let's move on to race number 6. It is open 12,000 claimer, 1 mile on the dirt. What are we cashing in here, Nick?
You know, it looks as if Big Mountain has a major pace advantage on this field. First off, a claim by Antonio Arriaga. This horse has been in good barns in the past, including that of Mike Maselli, who had him for basically all of 2021. He really hasn't done much, which has been surprising because Mike Maselli does a really good job, I would think. But this is a horse where it's kind of a no-brainer for his connections. He's the fastest horse on paper. He's supposed to go to the lead. And this competition, I think, is weaker top to bottom than what he faced last time, even though this is a 12-5 and that was 10,000, because Regal Quality, who won that race, is actually a hard-knocking claimer with some back class. So I would be willing to grant Big Mountain a little bit of an edge there, not only pace-wise, but because I think he's been facing better horses. The other horse for me is Kumar. I would just use the 4 and 6 here. Kumar's done his best work at Belmont. in Gustavo Rodriguez's care now. He won right off the trainer change and has seemingly stayed in pretty good form, at least bouncing back last time out to finish a good second. I can't really make a case for anybody else. I wonder, could you? I really didn't see anybody besides those two.
I'm singled here. If I was going to use a second one, it would have been Big Mountain. I'm just a little bit nervy of the trainer change, Antonio Arriaga. Not one that I'm really keen to bet first time off the claim. Kumar, like we said, in these lower level claiming races, you just need to see where they're winning at. This one ran really good for 10,000 last time out. Has that nice bullet work out of 16 runners. 3 for 7 at Belmont, 4 for 13 at the distance. I mean, when you see numbers like that, these lower level claimers, sometimes that can just influence and bump up a certain horse. For me, it is the single of Kumar. So we want to race number 7 at Belmont Park. It is the Chelsea Flower 100,000 turf stake, 160 miles on the Widener. How about this race, Nick?
I thought this was a fun race. I really felt like Shad Nation ran very impressively on debut, beating Gunboat and Vagaries. Vagaries, who finished 4th in that race, had actually been 3rd on debut behind the horse that won, whose name I believe was Hail 2. Kinchin was 2nd in that race. And so that was kind of why a lot of attention was paid to that race. It was the day after the Travers. And the Vagaries had run well. And Shad Nation was very impressive, winning on debut. Interestingly, Dylan Davis opts to go to Philly Eagles instead of riding Shad Nation back. But Paco Lopez gets on board, and I think that ends up working out just fine. Speed figure wise, this horse was kind of a standout based on that performance. You know, whether you're a Timeform US user or just simply a buyer speed figure devotee, you definitely feel strongly about the way that horse ran and the opportunity to potentially move forward second time out. I did feel like Philly Eagles got into a little bit of early trouble last time out, ended up losing some precious ground behind the early 1-2 runners in that race, and ultimately put together a nice move. Really got a great ride from Dylan Davis too. Saved a ton of ground and ended up making kind of a meaningless move to round out the Superfecta, but undoubtedly faced better horses than she does here. And then there are 2 horses in this race who were both coming out of the Jessamine up at down at Keeneland, and the one to me who clearly ran better was Knees and Hips. And Knees and Hips actually got into a lot of traffic trouble in upper stretch, ended up trying to find a place late. The field really came together. I think that tells you a lot about the quality of that race, but I do think Knees and Hips didn't really have much of an opportunity to show exactly what she had, and I think is worthy of some consideration, potentially at what should be a pretty attractive price.
I'm too deep in this race. Philly Eagles for me. I love the fact that Dylan, we already talked about the speed advantage or speed buyer figure advantage on the one. The fact that he jumps over to this one, dropping out of a grade 2. I just feel like this is kind of the wise guy move. Jockey can jump on either one with the best figure or one that is dropping in class. I kind of like Philly Eagles for that spot. And the fact that Cassie this spot makes sense. Ran well overseas, first race in the US. Let's try it one more time. Mischievous Kiss for me is the other one. Belmont, nice slow improvement, stretching out yet again, going from 7 to a mile and 16th. Into Mischief, Chris S. I think this horse should be fine at the distance and was favored last time out and 1-1 with Junior. Now gets Eric. Obviously, it's a little bit of a downgrade for me. Not that I'm a big downgrade or upgrade person with jockeys. I like the spot here. I think this one's going to be a decent price. Obviously, no warning lines out yet, so hoping for a good price there. Let's move on to race number 8 from Belmont Park. Is a state bred optional N2X 6.5 on the dirt. How are we going to get paid through this leg, Nick?
Well, I think it's undeniable that after a pretty impressive maiden win, they bet Gold Panda last time out against one other than competition, like the race was over. And that was a race that actually had a couple of horses in it that have come back and won. Now, worth noting that Big Bobby and Prince of Pharaohs both came back and didn't quite get to the buyer speed figure that they earned when they chased Gold Panda home. But they did each win their next starts, including Big Bobby scoring last weekend. I think Gold Panda is a horse with a pretty serious amount of talent. There's also a dearth of early speed in here, and I think he's going to be set up perfectly just outside of Blue Gator and or More Grateful, and he figures to get a really good trip. I mean, pick 6-wise, this looks like a single to me. This horse looks like he's going to be exceptionally tough to beat. I envision him probably being somewhere around 6-5 or so on the morning line. We'll see when David gets it out a little bit later today, but he looked like, this looked like a virtual walkover to me. He just seems like he's going to be a little bit too much for them.
Gold Panda definitely on my tickets. Love the fact when they can win straight out that first level allowance, kind of just shows that they're going to be the ones that will go forward and do well in stakes. I'm going to use one more. I'm going to use Money in the Bank. Like I said, I think the market is still not too strong on Dylan. Race 2 back, the 82 buyer. It wasn't the mud off the turf. Dylan gets the job done. Then they bring this horse to Finger Lakes. They win. Obviously, there's a decline in the buyer speed figures. Obviously, from doing that for so many years. I'm going to say that maybe people will look at that race and still downgrade, going to Finger Lakes. Now they're coming back up. 2 for 2 at Belmont, 4 for 4 in the exacta. I think that in stake races as well, as much as those bottom level claimers, that means something to me. And I think this one, if I will at least use as a B, can run second and juice up those exotics. So on to race
the story on this horse, right? That
I do not.
They don't carry a whip. So he does not like to be hit with the whip to the point where they don't even carry it. And Dylan, I remember watching the Saratoga Live after his win 2 starts back, and I think it was either Maggie or Acacia was interviewing Dylan, and he said, "Yeah, you can't hit the horse with the whip." And it was actually Dylan's brother that trained the horse, and Engelhart claimed him off him. It's worked out to be a great claim. I thought he was a little slow to win, but I do think he's the right exacta partner, and I think if you're going to use a backup, he seemed to make the most sense to me.
So on to race number 9 from Belmont Park, the Stewart Manor $100,000 stake, 6 furlongs on the inner turf. How about this race, Nick?
I think Mystic Eyes is going to be exceptionally tough in this race based on the speed that she's shown, including in that matron last time out. That was really a very, very strong pace. This horse nearly withstood it and ended up almost getting the job done, losing by a length. Obviously, Bubble Rock, who won that race, is going to be a single-digit price, I would say, in the Juvenile Fillies turf on Friday afternoon. My concern here is that it looks like there's a lot of speed in here. She looks like she could easily get hooked up in a battle early with Ben Bang. I could see the club being a little bit forwardly placed. Stand Up Comic has some speed. Charlie O is coming off longer races, so her speed might be dulled a little bit, but she's pretty quick off the mark. And that felt like it was really going to set things up for Gallina Rush, who, I'm maligned after her maiden win 2 starts back when she was elevated via disqualification of Haughty. But she actually came back and ran really well in the matron. So I was very impressed with that effort. I think the public dismissed her completely at 29-1 and justifiably, but she validated that improvement at second asking and improvement moving to the turf. So I think at 6 furlongs, she's a serious late threat. I don't see how you could bet any kind of multi-race bet and not use Mystic Eyes, who just looks to make a ton of sense. And the other horse that I would use if I was willing to go 3 deep would be the Club, who was kind of an even 5th last time, but was always sort of in attendance of that pace. And this is a horse that was facing stakes company for the first time. I think still has some upside.
For me, I'm right with you with Mystic Eyes and the Club. I'm going to use one other one, Gallina Rush, just all 3 out of the matron, really. I mean, when horses on stake races lose by less than 2 lengths and they're 5th, everyone looking for those 1s and 2s, they see a 5th, they kind of just scratch right over it. But to lose by only 2 lengths, I thought was very interesting for the Club. Back to Gallina Rush, lost by half a length. The turn back, I think, fit this one really well. I think going 6 is what this one wants to do. So I will include that one as well. Also, if anybody can't notice, I'm very, very high on Dylan this pick 6. Mystic Eyes, like you had said, 77, 77, 80. There hasn't been much improvement, so maybe someone else can jump up. I do like the fact that with the Club, you see those 59 to 71 to 78, which is not usually what you see with those turf races, those bigger buyer improvements, but definitely one. Happy to see Kendrick back on and get a good ride. Very excited for that one in that race. Let's finish up and get paid here. Race number 10 from Belmont Park, a maiden claim 50,000, 1 mile on the Widener. How are we going to get paid, Nick?
I think that I'm interested to see how this race is going to get bet because Uninvited Guest on the outside has a big turf pedigree. You'd imagine this horse is going to get a lot of support at the windows. Progeny of Distorted Humor winning their turf debuts at a 13% clip. The Dam was a 5-time turf winner. The Second Dam was a graded stakes winning turf horse. There's oodles of turf pedigree here. It's a Pin Oak family. Ironically, the best horses in the family are dirt horses like Alternation, who ended up being a stallion after being graded 6 caliber. But Uninvited Guest, they shelled out $400,000, ideally not so that they could have a $50,000 maiden claimer on turf. But this is a horse who showed some ability on debut, and then obviously was just in a little too tough last time out. Todd getting the horse to the right spot to me. The 3 Necromancer is a horse that I have to use as well. A second-time starter with that big turf pedigree, debuted on the turf, got no pace to run at whatsoever. And Slipstream and Golden Slipstream, of course, came right back to win the Futurity. And Grand Sonata, who finished second. There was also another also ran in the race that both came back and won their next starts. They weren't off the turf races though, so don't anybody go too hog wild in seeing that italicized font. But nonetheless, I thought Necromancer was a horse who'd really improve with experience. Most Bruce Levine trainees do, and this is a horse who should ultimately get to his best on the turf. I don't think I could exclude Wicked Fast, who seems to make a lot of sense. He ran a good race on debut. Belmont horses that run that well on debut generally have some ability. Wasn't a particularly fast race. He's going to have to run better, I think, if the 12 really takes to turf. But he made enough sense to me to include. And then budgetary wise, if I could get to the 10 as well, Kingham Hill, he had the far outside post going a mile and a 16th in a pretty productive New York bred maiden special weight race, and ultimately ran into a little trouble a couple of different times, including he didn't really get sawed off, but he got pinched a little bit in upper stretch. The blinkers are going on. He's got a really aggressive rider on board. So I think you could envision a forwardly placed trip.
I'm going to try and single in this race. I'm trying to be more of a contrarian in these pick 6, pick 5, pick 4s, where if I feel like it's going to be a spread leg, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to single. I'm going to go Wicked Fast. Like you said, Bill usually doesn't get on first time out to go too well. This one almost won on the debut. I think we're going to see nice improvement. 9-1 was the opening odds. If we can get 4 or 5-1, always solid value for a single. I am a little bit worried about with the stored humor on the outside. 13% is a nice stat. I am going to hopefully beat the trend there and try and get Wicked Fast home in the finale. Before we let you go, Nick, just 2 quick thoughts. One for Friday, one for Saturday for Breeders' Cup.
One for Friday, Modern Games in the juvenile turf. That's who I really like, which is going to be the nightcap. He's a horse I think that's coming in the right way, has the right kind of running style for this race. And Charlie Appleby obviously is very hard to argue with what he's done throughout 2021 in North America. And Saturday, I wonder who would I give? Royal Flag is, I think, one of my stronger opinions. I like Royal Flag a lot. It feels like a lot of people like Royal Flag. I think the more you dig into that race and realize how quick the pace should be, excuse me, the more you realize that she has a pretty big shot. So as much as I'd love to see Latruska cap what's been a pretty amazing year, I'm going to be betting on Royal Flag.
Thank you so much, Nick Tammaro, guys. Always a pleasure to have on the show. Always glad to hear your insight. Good luck this weekend.
Anytime. Thank you, my friend. Good to be on. Same to you.
Today's Breeders' Cup simulcast show brought to you in part by our friends from Adelphi Racing Club. Very excited about this new partnership. This is a racing club of like-minded people who enjoy horse racing and the camaraderie of being part of something bigger than themselves. It's a true community. They've got a really cool class of yearling prospects right now. A horse called Salivo, Street Sense filly, bred to be fast with some major European influence in the pedigree, headed to training with Ray Handel this spring. And there's a yet-to-be-named Tappert colt, looks to be a 2-turn horse. Folks remember Tappert, of course, Belmont Stakes winner, and some pedigree on the dam side as well. This one's headed to Christophe Clement in the spring. Lots of ways to learn more about Adelphi Racing, starting with the site you're seeing if you're watching on YouTube, adelphiracing.com. You can also reach out directly to Matt at adelphiracing.com and follow them on social as well. On Insta, it's at Adelphi_racing, and on Twitter, at Adelphi Club. Going to be hearing a lot more in the coming weeks about Adelphi Racing Club, and we're very happy to have them on board here at In the Money Media.
And now let's welcome in my second guest on this In the Money Players podcast, someone who I've had the wonderful time talking to the last couple of weeks. Excited to talk Woodbine. It is Drew Coatney. Drew, how are you today?
I'm doing good. It's like kind of feels like Christmas Eve a little bit, where maybe we forgot our shopping because there is a lot to handicap for the Breeders' Cup coming up, and then Woodbine as well, having some good strong races. And I love this race that we're going to talk about to kick off the pick 4.
I had taken the last couple of weeks off to just kind of prime and prep for Breeders' Cup, and then I got the PPs, and I'm just like, I'm out of practice, and it just started taking me a little bit longer to just really dig down and get deep in those races. But super excited for Breeders' Cup, super excited for Woodbine. Let's get her started, Drew, with race number 8 is an allowance race, 101.16 miles on the synth. How are we starting off this late pick 4?
I think this is a fantastic race. It's just an interesting commentary. I'll be curious if both of these massive Cassie runners will go, because you got Oxley with the $1.3 million slow to the races, number 6 Milano, with also a other big price point of $650,000 with Tecumseh's War, the number 5. So which one is going to have, and that's for Gary Barber, I should say. Mm-hmm. So it makes you wonder: are they gonna send both of these out, or are they gonna, Cassie, hey, let's scratch, let's not do this here today. So, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Can we just start over? I screwed this entire thing up.
Yeah, we can.
Why did I see the big price tag? Where the hell is that other price tag at? Oh, Windy Aura. That's it. That's who it is. I'm an idiot. My bad. That's my fault. Sorry, guys.
Coming back in 3, 2, 1. Let's start off with race number 8 from Woodbine, an allowance 160 miles on the synth. How are we going to start off in this late pick 4 here, Drew?
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic race because Cassie has 2 big priced runners in here. One for Gary Barber with Win Dioro at $650,000 purchase, a 4-year-old. And then also for the Oxleys, a $1.3 million into Mischief that's only raced once. So you got to wonder, is Cassie going to give a nudge to one of those owners and say, hey, we probably shouldn't run here. Let's get the win because this one's breathing fire or training very well, what have you. So those 2 are going to be very interesting to see, especially if the number 8 scratch is out of here. My top pick, the number 6 Milano, will give even more merit. I think it's very telling this one took so long to get to the races, almost two full years to get to the races, then showed up very green, but yet demolished the field in the most bizarre of ways, kind of traveling wide, was scrubbing on the horse around the far turn, shied away from the whip, green down the lane, but yet exploded in the final 16th as if the light bulb went off. So I'm going to go with the number 6 Milano, thinking, hey, Cassie took his time with this one, felt this horse was ready. They're not going to rush this one back in again, especially with the price tag that they have. So I'm assuming this is going to be a solid ground to build on. The number 6 Milano will get the job done. I'm also going to be using, though, the number 5 Tecumseh's War. It's only the second start for 2021, but that was a tough allowance bunch that beat up on this one with Belichick and English Conqueror, both grade stakes placed runners. In today's event, the class level is much softer, and the pace looks to fit this front runner pretty well. Best overall figures here, and should have that, again, enough of that tactical speed to stay in with this pack and close well. So I'm on the shorter odd spectrum here with the number 6 and the number 5, but to give a little spice as a backup, the number 9 Broadway at 12-1. I think, again, yet another massive purchase price, a $500,000 purchase for Hatfield. We'll have to work on a trip, but the blinkers go on, so maybe gets placed a bit more forward. And the light figures in the last 3 races, maybe we have a story to tell. Bad trips, wide runs, but Bridgman gets aboard. I think maybe that'll freshen things up. And again, 12-1, you can't beat that price for a backup. So 6-5 with a backup of the 9.
I can't agree with you more on the 6 and the 5 with Milano. The fact that the big purchase price took now a 4-year-old. I mean, how often do we see 4-year-olds win maidens first time out with big price tags? Closing in off. Now we get, they stay on the synth. They won this one for turf. Now you kind of wonder which surface this one wants. I do like Milano for those reasons. Tecumseh's War as well. Only one start this year. Did have a slow pace. Now off the layoff for Catherine Day Phillips. I just think that for this one, the numbers aren't too good off the layoff for this training outfit, but just one that I see has improved just so nicely, coming off that first long layoff. Now we get another one, a little concerning, but showed so well that they can run the last time out. Maybe this one can run well again. Another spicy one for me. Now this will be the number 10 Gospel Way. Ooh. Nathan Squires is the trainer. 21%, 5% ROI. First of all, had the horse 2 back. They ran him on the turf. Didn't do well. Brought on the synth. Where'd that race come from? Maybe this one can put 2 of them together. Not going to let this one get away from me. I don't have morning line odds, Drew. What is this one on the morning line, the number 10 Gospel Way?
20-1. And, we will be talking about a horse in the last leg, number 2 Hidden Identity, that will, I think, maybe explain where that figure came from and that blip in the radar.
Let's move on to race number 9. It is a open claimer, 7.5 thousand to 7,000, 6 furlongs on the synth. How are we going to start stacking up our pick 4 here, Drew?
Yeah, let's go back to leg 1. I just had one more question for you. Where do you think Milano is going to be bet to, and what do you think the fair value line is? Because you bring up a good point that this horse did want to race on the turf, got washed off, and now there is no more turf.
If this one's favored, I would be more into fading, I think. Just because the 75, there's other horses in this race who have ran faster figures, and if they want this one on turf first time out, that just tells me, Cassie's fine with the surface switch, but for me, I need this one to be minimum 2-1, 5-2, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's kind of where it feels. I bet you this horse gets bet down to 8-5 or less.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in race number 9, the number 2 Hitter's Park at 8-5. I think gets the inside draw, should set up perfectly behind those front runners and make him big move at the top of the stretch. There's a great class drop here, and I think the connections are being very prudent, offloading this runner as the season gets long here without any more turf events. I'm imagining they're saying, hey, look, we made some good money in 2021. We're going to get this one off of our books. We're going to get the paycheck and the win. We're going to get the price tag as well and continue to go on with our owning business here. So I really like the number 2 Hitters Park. I think it's a very prudent move by the connections to do what they're doing here. I will use for a little bit the number 8 Hurricane Dancer at 3-1. I think might just be the best of the speed. And last out was maybe just a smidge too long, too back, too short. And without much speed signed on today, could fit just right in the Goldilocks zone for this one. So 2-8 for me, pretty skinny on this $7,500 claiming event.
I kind of feel like we're reading each other's notes at this point. Before we get to the 2 and 8 for me, I'm going to talk about the 7 and the 9. I just kind of feel like in these type of races, you kind of want to be a little bit more spready. These open claimers, there is a little bit more quote unquote variance to it. This one coming off that $5,000 win last time out. Figures are a little bit light, but I just like ones that, 11 for 24 in the exact at Woodbine. One definitely likes to run here. Since the claim, the horse has only missed, has hit the board 3 out of 5 starts. I think Dutro knows what he's doing, 19% on the synth. Going into Nevia's Valentine, another one slowly improving, 68, 71, 72. I think this one can be a little bit dangerous to these 2, as well as you said, Hitters Park, who is improving in his own right, but has an 80. As the latest top has run 280s below as well. I just kind of feel like that one with a little bit more improvement off the 72 can be definitely a big price in here and shake it up. Now on to Hitters Park. I loved everything that you had said about this horse. I think the fact that this horse is dropping in class is the key. You always want to find, I think the percentage is 33% of droppers win compared to horses rising in class. Martin Drexler, 21%. He's dropping, he's jumping, he's doing everything proper in this meet. This one dropping in class. They get the price tag. 4 for 7 at Woodbine in the exacta. This horse likes this distance. Very excited to see what Hitters Park can do. Hurricane Dancer for me. If you toss the last race out, this horse is 76, 76, and 85. One of them was at this level. It was first off the claim. I kind of wonder if Norm maybe just decided that he had put this horse at the right spot first off. Then they try the allowance. No good. They win for 9. If they won for 9, now they're in for 7. I would think that they fit on class, and this one I think is going to be a great price. Also gets Hernandez in the saddle. Him and Norm, 18%, but we all know they're always going to be around the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, and hopefully you have me back. I was a little Wi-Fi disabled for a second, so hopefully I'm back. Yeah, I think the cases that you make are right, and sometimes just gravitating towards the higher buyer figures, go figure, might actually help hone in on the winners here. So, yeah, I like it.
Race number 10 from Woodbine is a 5,000 N2L, some of my favorite races on certain cards. 101.68 miles on the synth. How are we getting through leg number 3 here, Drew?
Yeah, I'm skinny again. I'm going to go back to I think it's an October 15th race with my top choice being the number 2. If 6 was 9, I think should get the best trip today. Has the tactical speed and really showed it in that October 15th race, traveling wide, making that first move. And I think that might be a good reason why the buyer was so low in that event, kind of wrapped up around the 16th pole saying, hey, look, we're going to go fight another day. Let's lose the battle to win the war. So I'm big on the number 2 if 6 was 9. And then also I did like the number 7 Top Prize Girl, right? Find a fresh face in these N2L events. The Buck Jockey Malvez. I haven't yet to see this runner 26 times at Woodbine today this season. So doing pretty well, winning 15%. And again, was in that October 15th race. And I think just got burned up a little bit. And there was a subtle move right as they entered the turn where number 7 Top Prize Girl in that event was trying to get on the inside, got shut off a little bit and had to go around the horse. So you might be able to find some value if you really look between the lines and say that 47, it wasn't just because of jump up in class. This one got burned up by a speed horse and had a subtle trip angle and could be able to make a step forward. So number 7 at 6-1, not a bad one. So I'm just going 2 horses deep here, 2 and 7 for me.
again, reading each other's notes. If 6 was 9 for me, my single, me and you never seem to agree this much. The only thing I'm worried about is with these N2L races, you always want to try and find the right price at when they broke their maiden. This one broke for 75. A lot of others in this race kind of won for 15. So how classy is this runner? I think the fact that they get Contreras on and keep him on this entire time has been very helpful. Drops out of that 9,000 race last time out. But I think when you look down to it, a mid 50 to high 50 buyer is what's going to win this race. And this one's been running that. And I think overall, what's the line on the 2? I'm guessing it's going to be short.
8-5. No. Sorry. It's 3-1.
I think taking 3-1 is a perfectly good price on this one. There's not really anything else in this race that, makes me excited to go to the window. So I think singling, getting a little bit cheaper here and setting up for the last race is just the key in trying to make some money here in these 20-cent pick fours.
Yeah, I can see a complete single here. It's not too out of the question.
Let's move on to the finale, race number 11 from Woodbine, a 15,000 N2L, 6.5 on the synth. How are we getting paid, Drew?
Yeah, I like, again, tough bunch. I think I've spread it. Or it's good to be spreaded here. The number 4, shoulda, coulda, woulda, might just be the best. The speed again gets an inside draw. Blinkers go on for the first time, and the figures fit in this bunch. Why this horse is 20-1, I'm not quite sure. So number 4, shoulda, coulda, woulda, 20-1. Number 1, no whammy. I think gets the inside draw and will work out that stalking trip. Last out ran impressively against a higher class, so today should be able to just take back, let all those outside horses go, and make a good, nice long run going to 6.5 furlongs. At this N2L event, a lot of times these horses like to hit a wall at the 16th pole, and no whammy might be able to get by. Same type of trip I envision for the number 5, Rain by Rain, 10-1. I think this one's going to be hard to leave off at running second time at this level. If the pace is mild, which I think it will be, should set up even better for this runner and get by on a grinding nose finish. To the horses I'm fading, the number 2, Hidden Identity, as you'd asked the question earlier, hey, where'd that synthetic race come from? I think this is a great example. I was high on this horse early when we saw Hidden Identity run a monster of a race going the 5 furlongs, huge gallop out, posted an 84 buyer, and nothing's happened since. Against easier, there was no adversity, was loose on the lead, and had blue fractions. I think it's really evident how much, I mean, this could be an extreme example, but I think it proves the point that sometimes when you see these 84 figures earned or 80 figures earned when breaking the maiden, when they step up in class, they're going to have some adversity. They're going to get some bumps and dings along the way. So I'm fading the Hidden Identity because this one has just continued to drop in ranks and has not been able to get nearly to that level before. And it's really kind of I feel like wave a white flag for the connections here with this one dropping down to the $15,000 mark. The other one I am fading as well will be the number 8 Stencil. I think it's hard to explain that race 2 back, gets back to that business, last out, breaks the maiden. But again, figures are light with the rest of this bunch, and I think this horse is going to be way over bet. So why take favoritism when a horse is not really that much better than the rest of them? And I can see where the flashy kind of PPs look, and people are like, oh yeah, speed horse, this one's lightly raced, is going to make a step forward. I need to see that first before I'm going to take a price that I'm assuming is going to be 2-1 or less. So I'm going to be on 3 horses here, the 4, 1, and 5, all A's. I think you're going to get a tremendous value. Doubt any will be above 4-1 in the win pool. So feel free to take your pick of one of those.
I agree with a lot of stuff you're saying. We'll start off with no whammy for me. The rail horse. First of all, Patrick Husband's always been my favorite rider up there at Woodbine. Broke the maiden on turf, so everyone goes, why do you think the horse can run synthetic? Because he ran the same figure 3 back on the synth. Was it with a fast pace early, but I just think this one's a little bit interesting coming off of the rail from Mike Dunslow. Another one who does all right with those synthetic and sprint numbers. Also for me, the number 5, Pacienza, Antonio Gallardo, a jock who I always think he does so well at Tampa, but when he moves, people I think don't realize how good he can be. And he's been okay at this meet, 15%. This one's just a little drop in class off the 25,000 claiming level. 3rd start off the layoff. I just think that this one can have a shot to improve and get in the number. Number 9, Bahia Girl, Justin Stein, broke the maiden last time out. I get exactly what you're saying. with these horses that break their mains with the lower figures. I want this one at what'll hopefully be a better price than Stencil. Give me a little bit of Kentucky Fan as well on the outside for Munoz as the rider. Slow fractions. He loves to close. He just hasn't had the right flow in the last couple of races.
No, I like all of those that you mentioned. I think it's interesting with the number 6 Pizenza at 8-1. This runner feels like is going to be kind of in between where, and I don't know if you do this, where you look at the pace and say, where's this horse going to end up at the first call?
Yep.
Is that going to be advantageous or not? And it's kind of hard to make heads or tails of. So maybe that one does get on my tickets here, but does that give you any pause for concern that this one is kind of it's not the best closer, not the best speed, is going to be like that in between where I don't know how the pace plays for this one.
The reason I went single in the last race is because I want as many as I can have in this race.
That's fair. That's fair, right? Make a case. If there's a shred of truth, let's do it so we can get paid.
Can't agree with you more. Let's talk some Breeders' Cup now, Drew. I'm super excited. You had a couple plays. We're going to talk a little bit about how much I like Gear Jockey in the Breeders' Cup. Who do you like coming up?
Yeah, we'll talk about that turf sprint here. I get the point for Gear Jockey. Man, this is going to be such a tough race. I think we need to start watching Del Mar to see how the track is playing, especially that turf course. But I think the number 6 a case for you. If you can get 8-1, this runner should be able to sit kind of a stalking trip and keep up with the speeds and just blow by late. You do have to wonder with the heavy going and some of the better runnings, especially that last one with the time form rating, not time form US, but a time form rating of 121, which fits with this bunch and just outclassing glass slippers. What happens when we get on the firm turf? So the number 6 a case of you at 8-1 is still, I think you're getting paid to make that gamble, but I could see going a lot of different ways with some of the notables. I think Golden Pal might be overbet though. I just don't think this one hangs with this bunch and might be a takeout reducer for me in my picks.
For me, here's my key. I've been on Gear Jockey all year. Since the allowance win, when he was sub 2-1, he's been 3-1 or better. He improves every race. Jose Lezcano obviously knows how to ride this one. He's won 2 out of the last 3. This horse is always a price, and I just feel like sometimes you have horses within a card that the public just never gets right. I think this is the one. He'll be all up and down in all ideas of my wagering. Don't forget about Kamara either. Everyone talks Wesley Ward. He's the early guy. It's April. It's May. It's all Wesley Ward. This one's done fine. 2 races, 2 wins. I know everyone says like you just don't have the seasoning, but I mean, Uni won a couple years ago with only 1 or 2 races prepping, or maybe even 3 before the Breeders' Cup. Why can't this one win 6-1? And you get Joel, who's the best closing rider in the country on the turf. I kind of want to be a little bit deeper. I might throw on Glass Slipper. I get what you're saying about the time form ratings, but I mean, this one won at 10-1 last time, is 6-1 again. If this one floats up, will not be missing for my ticket. And then the other Breeders' Cup race we wanted to talk about was
Dirt Mile. Yeah, I love the narrative that I have spun for myself. Sometimes this is dangerous, right? To get married to your own romantic story. That life is good is not as good as we once hoped. And I think it really, to take a short price on a horse, you got to have some confidence. And this horse doesn't give me any lick of confidence. Comes out for the Pletcher Barn, runs weird, I think, for lack of a better word, right? Fast, but then like overconfidently handled, I think is maybe I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like Smith knew exactly what was going on, and this horse was short and knew he couldn't get away with much more than that, or else he would have been really defeated. And then comes out and faces I don't even know if we could call that bunch an allowance bunch that this one faced. Yeah. I was going to get thrown to the gauntlet with some of these horses that are well proven. Mm-hmm. So it makes me really wonder what is going on. And I think there's abundance of speed in here. Going the 2 turns, that turn comes up quick. And as you heard Steve Bick on the Monster Pod say, why is this race being run at 2 turns? It needs to be a 1 turn. Get rid of this until it comes back to Churchill or a Naira circuit, or it can be a 1 turn event. So I think this is going to set up perfectly for the number 1 Silver State. Get that inside draw. Let anyone use up energy they want to going wide to try and make that tight turn pass. And if this runner is 3 lengths at the top of the backstretch right around like that as they go in right to the far turn. I think that Silver State will have a massive closing kick and run to go. I think you could make the case that the last race, the jockey kind of wrapped up a little bit and was like, oh, yeah, I forgot Mind Control's a really good horse and got beat. So I think that figure could be higher. It launched the bid into the slow pace. Anything above 5-2 on Silver State feels like a great win bet for me. But you can't also not look at the outside horse here as well, where you have to imagine, if anyone says Bob Baffert lost a step, he's still winning at like 30+% over the last 3 months. And this win would mean the world to him to get 8 rings back up. Has been progressing nicely and just might make it up and be able to take that step forward into the triple-digit buyers. The workout tab sure looks like it. That sharpening and tightening of the screws, you have to imagine he circled this one on his calendar to get the win. So I'm on the rail horse and the far outside horse, and Life is Good will be on nothing of my tickets.
Not so fast. Life is Good, not saying that this one is going to be the takeout reducer, but this one I was against when Jackie's Warrior won, but ran too good to lose. And I get it, comes back and wins the Kelso, drops the buyer a bunch. It's third time off. Fletcher's had plenty of time with this one. I'm not going to let this one beat me, but I mean, if we're talking 2-5 or whatever, and we see something like Silver State just jump up to like 5-1, then I will fade. For me, it's Silver State as well. How many horses do we see over whatever it is, 18 months, have a 104 to a 97 buyer split in about 10 races, and that's it? 7-8 points. Half the time we see horses 95, 34, 96, 28. Like, there's so many big, and this one has just been so steady. Santana, Asmussen, we all know about everything that's happened this year with the Asmussen barn. They were a little bit cold for Keeneland and all that, but I think this one will be the one that kind of gets it done. I think a lot of people this year have, same as Gear Jockey for me, Silver State is always the 5th horse in their 4-horse ticket for a pick 5, and they always get beat by this one. I think this one's going to get done here in race number 6. The big ass fans at Breeders' Cup Deer Mile.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look up the odds checker. Sorry, I can't find odds checkers live odds right now where we can get down. So I'll have to look that up here in a little bit. But I think you're going to get 2-5, 1-5 on Life is Good, because everyone's going to see, this horse ran, and made way too fast early at Saratoga in the Jerkins and just burned up. But I mean, in the Kelso, the horse looked washed out completely. So I think we may be get rid of the odds altogether. Just look at the horse. The horse is all washed out and looks like still doesn't know what it's doing. I think this one just didn't take to the Fletcher barn. So I'm excited. It's going to be a fantastic race to watch, and I think we'll blow up a lot of people's tickets.
I want to thank my special guest, Drew Coatney, for coming on. Glad to talk Woodbine. Super excited for Breeders' Cup. Good luck this weekend.
You too. See you, buddy.
Want to give a thank you to our friends at Mill Ridge. Very excited to be working with them. They're sponsoring some stuff this week for Breeders' Cup. 36 Grade 1 winners they've raised since the year 2000, and terrific people over there as well. Folks who really get the connection between the gambling side of the business and the breeding and owning side of the business. A wonderful place to go for a tour as well the next time you're down there in Lexington, Kentucky. If you have questions about getting involved in the thoroughbred industry, reach out to Price Bell at Mill Ridge. You can get in touch with him through millridge.com, and we ask you to take a look out for the show. They're going to be sponsoring, going to drop a little bit later today, Pro Player Roundtable Show. Me, Sean Borman, and Frank McGoey are going to be involved. Maybe a special guest. We'll see about that, but it's going to be some great Breeders' Cup content. We hope you check it out, and to learn more about Mill Ridge, go to millridge.com.
And now I'd like to welcome in my third and final guest of this In the Money Players podcast. It is Kate Hunter. We're here to talk some Japanese runners for the Breeders' Cup. Kate, how are you doing this fine morning?
I'm pretty tired. 7 horses is a lot to manage.
I can see that. Everyone, Breeders' Cup week is always kind of, feels like it's the end of Saratoga. You come back and it's just, you're wiped out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's start off real quick. Japanese runners in general for the Breeders' Cup. Obviously, most of them are double-digit odds. What are some that you're looking forward to that you think have a chance to hit the board, if not win a race?
Well, I'm pretty excited about Jasper Great. I think that he showed a lot of potential in his debut race. Now, he's only raced once, so, I mean, that's always kind of, I guess, iffy when you're at championships like this. But there's not a lot of opportunities for 2-year-olds to get much form. So in Japan, especially dirt horses. And so there hasn't been a graded stakes race for a dirt horse at 2 yet. So, but he showed tremendous ability in his debut. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in the juvenile, because I know that Mr. Mori wants to go back to Saudi Arabia, win the Saudi Derby. He wants to go to UAE Derby and the Kentucky Derby. So it'd be great to be able to travel with that horse some more. Then I guess on the big stage on Saturday, you've got Love's Only You. I mean, she's probably the headliner of the group, and she's really returned to her, Oaks winning glory status, and seems to have aged very, very well. So I think she's going to be a very serious contender, if not our winner of the weekend. And this is probably Matera Sky's swan song. He'll probably enter stud next year. But he, even this year back in Saudi Arabia, he ran such a nice second. He still has so much to give, even though he's 7 years old. Then Jasper, Prince, and Pinshan have really improved since last year when they came over for the Keeneland Breeders' Cup. So I'm really hoping that, given the smaller field and the dirt mile and their draws, that they will, kind of just take off in the beginning there and just hang on to the end. Pinshan's probably the more likely strongest contender in the dirt mile of my horses. Then Marsh Lorraine will be kind of a wild card, but she's shown tremendous ability in Japan over dirt and against males. So I think that might hopefully will translate into a decent run against the mares here in America are real tough this year. So it's not gonna be that easy. But any kind of performance from her against that kind of quality field will be outstanding. And then Vindegaard, he's my poster boy. He's the most beautiful horse you've ever seen. He could go, if this doesn't work out, he should go to the Olympics, the way he moves. And I hope he's got a real good shot in the mile, because I know that Mr. Fujiwara, he wants to go to Hong Kong after this and maybe back to Dubai next year. So, the horse seems to really blossom when he travels. So he really likes the draw. He didn't want to be stuck on the inside because of how narrow the track is, and he didn't want to be on the far outside. So he's really happy with his post draw at 5.
Going back to Jasper Prince real quick, how important is having a race already in America? Do you think having to go through the quarantine process, obviously back and forth, is that going to be a key angle where you kind of feel, okay, he's already done it once, now he'll be more comfortable coming in the second time?
Sure. I mean, just like people, having a little bit of experience in something always makes it go a little bit smoother. And I think one of the biggest, I guess, the disappointments of last year is that Pinshan didn't get a start, because he is a truly talented horse, and he went on to win a couple of times in Japan after going back. So I really feel like he's going to have an opportunity here to shine. And I think that I think Jasper will run. If he runs like he did in the sprint last year, he'll just take off and really post some good fractions. But I think that at the end of the day, Pinshan's probably going to be the one to get his little white nose in front.
We had a horse like Whitmore win the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year at a tender age. Now we have a horse like Matera Sky, obviously older horse. How important is it, for a horse like this, being this old, coming over now to do the Breeders' Cup? Pete says one of the more dangerous horses coming over from Japan to finally try and get it done over here in America.
Well, I have a real soft spot for Matera Sky, because everywhere I've gone, I've been traveling with him, and it's been great. And he always really puts in the best effort he can in when he races. And when it comes to like he ran so well in Saudi, and then like back in Dubai where he lost to XY Jet and all that doping stuff, like it's one of those things where if there's one horse who deserves a Group 1 race, it's absolutely Matera Sky, because of just how much of himself he's laid out on the floor, laid out there on the track. So he's one of the things I like about Japanese racing is you've got a lot of horses like that. Like you had Makihiki, he's 8 and he won a group graded stakes race just a couple weeks ago. So the Japanese keep their horses running because it's hard to get a stallion deal in Japan because it's such a small country. But at the same time, if they're healthy, if they're fit, if they're not lame, if you have no problems with them, you can just keep racing them, and there's no pressure to retire them. You just kind of enjoy them as racehorses, and that's what Mr. Ono has done with Matera Sky as his headlining horse. He just has a new one, a 3-year-old, Stella Veloce, who's been running really well over there in Japan on the turf. So, but it's nice to see the owners and the trainers kind of enjoying the racehorse versus looking for the next stallion deal.
out of all the runners that you've mentioned and talked about, give me the top horse think that can get in the winner's circle and maybe a nice long shot to end exactas and trifectas.
I don't really, I'm not a good bettor. You don't want to take any of my tips. I'm guaranteed to make sure you lose money. But I think Jasper Great, Pinshan, and Love's Only You are definitely have the best shots in their races.
Okay.
I think Vindegaard is going to be right up there because the way he ran in Dubai was really impressive. And if he gets that same kind of start, is up near the front, that way the short stretch won't shortchange him. I think Vindegaard's got a real good chance to hit the board. And then, of course, fingers crossed for good old Matera Sky.
That is all the time we have today. I want to thank Kate Hunter for coming on and giving me some knowledge on the Japanese runners. Appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Have a nice day.
A special thanks to all of the listeners out there for listening to all of our coverage for this upcoming Breeders' Cup, and also a special thanks to the special guests for this show, Nick Tammaro, Kate Hunter, Drew Coatney. I want to also thank 10 Strike Racing and the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. If you want to go give a donation, go to trfinc.org/players. And also, last but not least, a special thanks to producer AJ for doing all the great work and having Pete have him running ragged this week. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. In the Money's president is Pierre Thomas Fornatow. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. And our In the Money Media business manager is Drew Coatney. I'm Spencer Luginbuhl. May you win all your Breeders' Cup photos.
Just me.